Battery Bill. Battery Bill. For cameras, computers, cars, or scooters. For trucks, boats, jet skis, remotes. Battery Bill. Battery Bill.
How's it going, everybody? It is episode 67 as we welcome you back to Hawaii Football Now. Jordan Helle and Hunter Hughes. Along with you, we are officially into the offseason as we start turning the page toward next year, the transfer portals, signing day, all that comes with the offseason. We'll take a look back at this season that was as well. Big mahalo to our sponsor, Spectrum Mobile, Hawaii USA Federal Credit Union, and Battery Bill as well. We record this Wednesday about 1:20 p.m. Hawaii time, a little later in the day, a little later in the week than our usual call time, but we are taking in the news as you are, and we'll try and dissect things. We are also pleased to welcome our guy Dedrick Parson to the show as we dive into the opening drive here. We got Dedrick coming up on the pod. We'll have him in the second half, pre-recorded interview to play for you guys. Pretty cool stuff. Our guy's getting ready for finals, so we know it's a busy time for him. So much appreciate him taking a little bit of a break from studying to join us here on the pod. But the dude that was kind of the glue, the heart and soul in a lot of ways of that offensive unit, along with the offensive line, and fun for us to get a chance to talk to him, Hunter.
Oh, absolutely. We've officially shifted our offensive identity the last couple of years from a pass first to a run first team, and the acquisition of Dedrick coming in. He came in last year, didn't he?
Yep.
It was a transfer from Howard, right?
Mm-hmm.
What a steal that ended up being for us with obviously the exit of Calvin Turner. We really needed just a solid, no nonsense running back to create an offense for us, and D was definitely that for us.
Yeah, he really was, right? Was kind of the number two back with Dedrick Hunter last year. Was a red zone menace in a lot of ways. The dude just sees holes so well. He led the team in rushing this year with 830 yards rushing, averaged almost 4.5 yards per carry. Led the team with 12 total touchdowns, 11 rushing, 1 receiving. He led the team with all-purpose yards. He was just over 1,000 yards all-purpose on the season. He scored in 8 of the 13 games. He had 3 multi-TD games. I'd say the high point was probably that Nevada win, right, where he scored 3 touchdowns, went for over 130. He was also third on the team in receptions with 30 receptions. So it just shows you how invaluable this guy was. And if it wasn't for Dedrick, things might have been even a little bit more rough, and in a lot of ways kind of carried the offense as it was going through a lot of growing pains. So stuff we'll talk to Dedrick about and see what his future may hold for him and what he may have planned, but pretty fun to get him on the podcast. So again, that's coming up in the second part of this week's episode. Before we dive into the game time, good reminder that Hawaii Football Now is brought to you by Hawaii USA Federal Credit Union. As Hawaii's largest credit union, they are committed to serving individuals and businesses through its 14 branch locations statewide and convenient digital banking services. As a leader in providing support for the islands, Hawaii USA is committed to strengthening Hawaii's financial wellness and sharing successes with members, local businesses, and the greater community. Visit hawaiiusafcu.com. All right, game time here on the pod, episode 67. Jordan Hunter along with you. We've had kind of like a week and a half now to digest things. After the season finale, Hawaii finishes at 3-10, 2-6 in Mountain West Conference play. Prior to the season, I thought 5 wins would be a pretty successful season. That's kind of where I set the barometer at. The Vegas win total was 4.5, which I thought was pretty fair. Ultimately, they get 3 wins. They get the 2 conference wins, plus the 1 FCS opponent, right, with the victory over Duquesne. And so, I don't know how you sort of digest all of that, Hunter, the difference between 5 wins and 3 wins. Is that a huge drop? Some would say yes, some would say no, right? 5-8 is 1 win away from 6-7, which would have gotten you into a bowl game this year. They were in a couple of games. There were a number of 1-score losses. There were a number of times that, they did better than maybe expected when you looked at the point spread. But just kind of your overall thoughts, Hunter, now that we've had a little time. Last episode, we dove a little bit more into the San Jose State game, in particular on a little bit more of a micro level, but kind of pulling the lens back a little bit. What's kind of your big takeaways here, your overall thoughts?
Yeah, I am always going to be the captain optimist. I think that's just the way that I operate in life, but definitely in reference to Hawaii football as well. I don't feel like it was that bad, Jordan. Like, obviously 3-10, we need to get better week in, week out. That was what Coach Timmy Chang would say to me on the sideline, was we got to keep getting better, and it starts with me, referring to him and the coaches. I would agree with that sentiment, but when you consider that the total point differential between us and the other Mountain West teams that we faced was only a differential of 30 points, we're right there. The feeling at the beginning of the year was that UH is, a cosmic gap behind every other school in the Mountain West, and screw Division I. We need to just go down to N1AA or Division II with everything going on with COVID and our stadium. I mean, that was the feeling from the general public, was just throw in the towel. We're finished, and it's just not the case. You give this coaching staff only about 7.5 months really to put a team together, and we're right in a lot of these ball games. And a few of them, I'm looking at our kind of summary of the year. Colorado State was a 4-point loss. San Diego State was 2 points. The Utah State game was a heartbreaker down the stretch. So was Wyoming. I mean, we were within a breath or two of shifting this from 3-10 to, maybe 4-6. It could have been, or completely changing that around. It could have been 7-6, I should say. And I just don't feel all that bad. And I think give these coaches a little bit more time, we could see ourselves competing in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think, and as you point out, right, the point differential, that's an 8 conference game. So, I mean, when you break it down, right, it's less than 4 points per game. Kind of the margin for error was pretty thin. And the difference between a lot of these teams outside of maybe the real top upper echelon wasn't that big. It really wasn't. Between Hawaii and maybe 3 through 12 in the conference. We saw what happened when Fresno got to full strength and they got Jay Kaner back. They were good enough, to win the conference and absolutely put a shellacking on Hawaii. Other than that, there weren't a whole lot of blowouts, right? The majority of their games were one score, outside of the one win against Nevada and then the one loss at San Jose State. And even that one, Hawaii they didn't play very well, but they hung around. And so the gap, when you look at it, and you can look at it from the lens as well, and I'll kind of go down the give a little quick recap of the schedule here in a second. But when you look at it, and you can take this, you can say that this means absolutely nothing, and I should shut up, or you can maybe look at it from a little bit more of an analytical lens. Hawaii was 9-4 against the spread, and so for those that don't understand the Vegas line, right? Hawaii was an underdog basically in every game except the Duquesne game. So it helps, when you don't have to cover as a favorite. But they covered the point spread, right? So they were within the number on 9 of 13 occasions, and most of those came down the stretch. They didn't cover the Vanderbilt game, the Western Kentucky game, or the New Mexico State game. So not 3 of their first 5, right? They were 2 and 3 to start the season, and then they basically go 7-1 against the spread the rest of the way. They went 7-1 against the spread in conference, and the only one they didn't cover was the Fresno State blowout. So even in all these losses, they were covering the number. And I'll get your thoughts here in a second, Hunter, but it kind of shows you that they exceeded expectations from a certain standpoint. And look, it's not necessarily a predictive indicator of what the score will be, right? Vegas, they set the lines. The entire goal is to make sure that there's about equal money bet on both sides, but oftentimes not. They're they're pretty good prognosticators when it comes to this kind of thing, right? They're pretty good at handicapping the quality of teams when it comes down to it, especially in big profile sports like college football, and especially in high profile games such as the last game of the day that Hawaii plays. And so for Hawaii to go 9-4 against the spread, 7-1 in conference, it does tell me a little something. Like it's a massive consolation prize, and ultimately on the field doesn't result in anything, right? Like you got to win the games. But it does tell me that they exceeded expectations, that they were more competitive than I think a lot of people gave them credit for. I think we saw improvement, as we mentioned, once they got into the conference schedule. Was it completely linear? No, there were some steps backward along the way, but I think overall it was a step in the right direction. Was it as big a leap as the coaching staff was hoping for? Maybe, maybe not. Was it as big a leap as some fans were hoping for? For some, no. But I do think it was a step, in the positive direction. And I think it's just sort of a data point that shows that they maybe didn't hit the 4.5 win total, but week to week, they exceeded expectations in a lot of ways. And look, the consolation is that, and it doesn't feel a whole lot better because they still ultimately only won 3 times on the scoreboard. But it does show a little something. I don't think it's meaningless. I don't think it's completely, unwarranted to discuss, but that's kind of my take on it all. And now the key is how do you take the next step, right? Because the next jump is going to be even harder to get higher up on the rung, or higher rung on the ladder. Is going to be tough because you were competitive, you were scrappy, but it shows that look, there's still work to be done.
Yeah, and a few of those games it showed that this coaching staff needs to kind of get their chops in too. There were a few situations like at the end of that Utah State game where we had 1st and goal from inside of the 5 without any timeout, and we elected to run the ball twice when we needed to score 10 points. There were just a few decisions down the stretch where we needed those experiences to get better down the road, and that only comes through repetitions. But you're exactly right, Jordan. We talked about it earlier in the year. This is going to be a tale of 2 seasons for us: the non-conference play, and then getting into conference play for us. And to show well against San Diego State, I mean, that was a game we very, very much could have won. Same could have been said for Wyoming and Utah State. And as I look at this year in review, a lot of people, their first comment to me about the year was, "Oh, our defense needs work." Well, if you look at it, our offense only scored 28 points 3 times. 3 times, which why do we care about 28 points? That's an average of 1 touchdown a quarter. You can't win football games in the Mountain West if you're only scoring less than 28 points. It's just not going to work. So we'll obviously dig into that in the near future. But then I kind of want to get to this too, Jordan. With the announcement that the college football playoff will head to 12 teams in 2024, I hope that Coach Timmy is drilling into our supporting coaching staff whenever they are out recruiting, that because of that, 6 conference champions will get automatic bids into the college football playoff in that new system, which means, let's rewind the clock back to 2007. University of Hawaii that year would have been one of those 6 conference champions. So it evens the playing ground for schools like us, where we don't have to play the same recruiting game as the big boys and get there at the same and share in the prize money as much as the rest of the guys.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great pitch in recruiting, right? Because look, if Boise had kind of gotten their act together a little earlier this year, if Jake Haynard doesn't get injured, there was this was a year, right, where the Mountain West should have been, and quite honestly, it was a down year for the Mountain West. Don't get me wrong, should have been right there for that group of 5 auto bid to a New Year's Six bowl game, right? It's Tulane. It's Tulane, who lost twice this season, lost to Southern Miss out of conference, a Conference USA squad. But they were sort of the last team remaining. Don't get me wrong. It's a good Tulane team, best Green Wave squad since the late 90s when they went like undefeated one year. But historically, the Mountain West should have a team or teams on that level, right? And so just getting into the top 15, if you can run the table, you can go 11-1, whatever it is, 12-1. That should get you in a pretty darn good position, right? And whether it's a New Year's Six bowl game, which ultimately results in a big cash payout for you and your conference, or if it's getting into a 12-team playoff, whatever that exactly looks like going forward, there's opportunity out there, no doubt about that. For this group, and I think you bring up a good point, and we'll spend the next couple of weeks kind of diving a little bit more into both sides of the ball. Next week we plan to analyze the offense a little more in depth, the following week defense a little more in depth. We've got time, we can kind of take our time to parse through this past season while also looking forward ahead. But you're right, the defense gave up 27 points or less 7 times, I think, this season. I think is the number, right? We kind of broke it down into 2 halves, right? The non-conference and then the Mountain West season, right? The 63-10 loss to Vanderbilt, a game that was close at halftime and then just went off the rails. 49-17 against Western Kentucky, same story. Michigan, terrible first half, not bad in the second half, to be quite honest, against Michigan's 3s and 4s, but it's the number 2 team in the country and they're going to be playing in the playoff. And very well could be playing in the national championship game here in a month's time or so. 56-10 there. They come back home. They beat Duquesne 24-14. One of, I thought, the low points of the season was just getting shellacked in Las Cruces against New Mexico State, where they score first. And then New Mexico State, who's going to a bowl game, by the way. And Jerry Kill has done a tremendous job turning that thing around. Yeah, man, it was dire straits there. They're going to join a conference here soon. Things are looking really up.
But they ran all over us.
They just ran all over us, right? Gave up 45 points. That I thought was kind of one of the low points. But then the nice thing was Hawaii bounced back, right? And should have beat San Diego State, as you mentioned, lost 16-14. Defense wasn't the problem there. Beat Nevada 31-16, a nice emotional win for this group and Timmy Chang in particular. Lost 17-13 at Colorado State. Defense, again, wasn't necessarily the problem there. They had to come up with a couple of goal line 4th down stands to keep that number where it was, but they were leading up until the final drive of the ball game, basically, where Colorado State goes down and scores. Wyoming 27-20. That was another one. Hawaii kind of backdoored their way in, but it's another 1-score loss. Gave up 27 points. Modern college football, you got to be able to score, right? Then the Fresno State loss on the road. I thought that was kind of the other big kind of crater of the season. And to be fair, that's a team that's much better, much more talented than Hawaii. A loss at Fresno, a blowout fashion. That's happened to good Hawaii teams in the past. It happened to a bad Hawaii team this year. Another kind of, working your way in the back door against Utah State, but another 1-score loss. They gave up 41 in that one. That was a little bit of a regression from the defense, I thought, those couple of games. But then they bounced back nicely, right? Against UNLV, 31-25. Defense only gave up less than 20 because one of them was a fumble return for a touchdown by UNLV. The only reason that was a 1-score game, I thought, completely outplayed the Rebels in the second half. And then they finished up the season at San Jose State 27-14. Defense kind of kept them around, to be quite honest, in that ball game. And I think that's something you and I agree on. It wasn't necessarily the defensive side of the football that ultimately did them in a number of games. And again, we'll get into more of the specifics here, but I kind of wanted to just go through the score, especially some of those conference games, because it really does sort of paint the picture, much like you did when you brought up the point differential over the course of the 8 games in conference. But I think it does kind of show, yes, down year. Yes, the conference overall wasn't as good as it has been in a long time. But for Hawaii, the gap isn't massive. No. They need to be better. Experience from the coaching staff on down will help. Increasing the level of talent will be beneficial. But they weren't ridiculously far off. And maybe the glass half empty guy will say, well, they should have won these games, right? That shows you that this is going in the wrong direction. They should have been a little bit better. Okay, I guess you can make that argument, but I think from where we stand, where we sit, that was frustrating. But as you kind of zoom out a little bit, it's okay. There's something to build on, and that was ultimately, I think, the most important thing in such a transitional year.
Yeah, and when you look at it, I'm looking at our Mountain West standings right now. We're not in dead last place, which is encouraging. Nevada is 0-8 in conference, and so is New Mexico.
Rough. It was a rough year for them.
And I bring that up because I think it offers perspective for us, for the fan base out there, that of all the years, with everything we went through, this would have been the year for us to be dead last in the Mountain West, and it's just not the case. We fought, and 2-6 is not a goal of ours by any stretch of the imagination, but it does speak to kind of where we're at. And with it being a down year, transfer portal, people leaving left and right, a lot of transition happening in the world of college football. We're a year or two of getting things tightened up, getting an offensive scheme that works for us, away from battling with the Fresnos, with the Boise's, with the San Diego States to be the top dog in the Mountain West. When the divisions go away here, I believe it's next year, right? We're no longer going to have the Mountainside or the West Division in the Mountain West. It's going to come down to who has the best overall record right there. So, that would be the narrative if I was Timmy right now, that I'm talking to my guys, I'm talking to my coaches. How do we get to a 1-loss conference record, a 2-loss conference record, and just be in the conversation? Because look at what happened with Tulane right now. They're not immaculate by any stretch of the imagination. They're good, but they're 10-2. It's not like they're 11-0 or something like that, what Cincinnati was last year. It's possible for us, and it's exciting that some rules have changed in the favor of the group of 5 schools.
Yeah, and so that'll be the big question going forward, right? We'll talk a little bit about this in the second half as well, some of the forward-looking topics on the pod. But to kind of wrap up the first half here, did want to give some shout outs to the all conference guys named later last week. On the first team, offensive lineman Il Manning, and tight end Caleb Phillips, right? A first team tight end from the University of Hawaii. Whoever would have thunk it. He actually led the Mountain West in terms of tight end, led all Mountain West tight ends in both receptions and yards, did Phillips. Micah Vanterpool, friend of the show, was second team all Mountain West. And then we had a number of honorable mention guys. Blessman Ta'ala, the stalwart on the defensive line. A couple of running backs, both Dedrick Parson, who's going to join the show a little bit later today, as well as the freshman Tylen Hines, John Tui Tupou up front on the defensive line. Also honorable mention, as was defensive back Peter Manuma. Air Force running back Brad Roberts was the offensive player of the year. San Jose State defensive lineman Viliami Fehoko was the defensive player of the year. Jack Browning, the kicker, punter, the specialist from San Diego State, was the special teams player of the year. Boise State quarterback Taylon Green was the freshman of the year. I thought no doubt there. And Andy Avalos, the Broncos head coach, was the coach of the year. What'd you think of some of these Hawaii guys getting honors? I think, a recognition of the group, even more than I anticipated, to be honest, after a 2-6 showing in conference. A lot of veteran guys, as you would imagine, that I think have been around for a while and rightfully so, built a reputation for themselves. Manning, Vanterpool, Ta'ala, Tui Tupou, guys like that, as well as Dedrick. Yeah,
did Caleb Phillips end up leading our team in receptions this year? I think he must have.
Good question. I didn't look that up. He led all Mountain West Conference tight ends.
Yeah.
Let me look that up as you go through.
It's okay. He's the one that stands out to me right there. Il Manning, for those that have been following the team since he came in, we've known that he's been our best chance at an NFL offensive lineman since Dejon Allen left us, and he was our previous really dominant left tackle. And really feel like Il Manning probably is going to move over to either center or guard and have a chance at the next level. So super stoked for him, as well as a slew of others. But, when we talk about the Mountain West in general, I can't help but feel like Chevin got snubbed a little bit. I felt like Chevin Cordero did more than enough to at least make first team Mountain West, and they gave it to Jake Haener, who played in half as many games. So I thought that was kind of strange. And I felt like he did enough to get the nod for Offensive Player of the Year, but he still has years in front of him over there at San Jose. So we can only hope the best for him. And our boy Jaron just messaged us that Caleb Phillips at 31 and Zion Bowens led the team with 35 receptions. So yeah, there you go. 31 for a tight end is pretty stinking good.
Yeah, so second on the team, right? We mentioned that Dedrick Parson third on the team with 30 receptions. But yeah, Zion in just 9 games this season had 35 catches, showed the potential there that maybe what could have been if he had been healthy the entire season. All right, we're going to take a break here. We're going to come back, second half coming your way. It'll start off with our Dedrick Parson interview. Again, you're listening to episode 67 right here on Hawaii Football Now.
This is Hawaii Football Now from ESPN Honolulu.
All right, we're here with our guy, Dedrick Parson, who's kind enough to take a little bit of a break from studying for finals as you get into it. So, Dedrick, thanks a lot, man. And, best of luck on your finals here coming up.
Much appreciated, man. Just finishing up the finals, getting it done this week, and graduate on the 17th.
Yeah, that's got to be exciting for you. We can get into the football stuff here in a little bit, but ultimately, right, the goal is to get that degree, get that experience done with. But so what's kind of the timeline here? When are you done with finals? What are you looking at doing after graduation?
Yep, so I'm done with finals at the end of this week, graduate the 17th of this month, and go back home the 18th, and then start training for the next level. I know where I'll be training. I'll be probably getting my agent and signing at the end of the week, and then going from there and find the best opportunities for me.
Oh, that is awesome, man. We wish you all the best as you kind of hit that next phase. Has the finality of things, now that your college career is done, now that your time with the University of Hawaii program as a player has finished up, has that all hit you yet, or is it kind of, you still got the semester to finish up? So have you had a chance to kind of sit back and think back a little?
Man, we had a little banquet. That's when it really hit me, like, it's over. Just being with my brothers every day, these bonds that I built with these guys, it's just been amazing. It's an amazing experience. Just going into another process. Just got to take it one day at a time, really, just enjoying the process, because you start to get overwhelmed with all this, the business side of things going into the real world. And it's so much that comes with it, because everything is more so business now. It's not more so family. It's hard to really find that in the business world, to really find people that's going to be there for you and stick with you no matter what. It's people really usually there for the check, and they look at you for your value, look at your stats. They don't look at the person. So, it's just that part of the thing now that I'm dealing with, and which is fine for me. I don't have a problem with it. That's just life. And now it's just me soaking it all in, taking what I did in the past of my college career, which was amazing. I had an amazing experience. I had an amazing time here in Hawaii. And I did some great things on the football field. And I'm just looking forward for the future now, just taking it one day at a time and just trying to enjoy it.
Dedrick, that's awesome, man. As a former player at University of Hawaii, let you in on a little secret. You're never going to leave the family now, bro. You're in for the long haul. It might have seemed cheesy from in the locker room, this whole brotherhood thing, but whenever you're out of it, it is felt, man. Like it is a big deal. And for now I'm a fan of the team. We're not going to forget you, bro. You've done a phenomenal job for us these last couple of years, and we talked about it earlier, Jordan. You were kind of the backbone of our offense for the last couple of years, man. So just wanted to say thank you for that.
Yeah, that's appreciated. this brotherhood is real, you know, and I've experienced that just being done, just all the family that come back and come talk to me and reach out to me and just tell me how much they appreciate what I did. And I tell them how much I appreciate them for what they've done. Also, just the support that they've given me throughout my time here. So it's just been amazing. It really is a family here. And I look forward to coming back here, giving back here, and, you know, just experiencing what the future holds. And I'm a fan now too. I can't wait to see the younger guys play, and I'll definitely be watching them guys play.
That's cool, man. You know, we've talked about this a lot, and it's kind of followed your career a little bit. And I wanted to get into this, the transfer portal. As someone who successfully jumped from Howard, you know, jumped to the next level from where you were at, were you ever nervous, you know, whenever you decided to make that jump of, is there going to be someone that picks me up? Is there, am I going to get another opportunity? Because you just don't know. I mean, talk us through what that's like from a player's perspective, because we got a ton of people we're trying to educate on what this whole new thing is about.
See, what I tell people all the time, I know a lot of people ask me for advice about the transfer portal because, of course, I was successful in it. But a lot of guys always ask me, like, I'm not happy where I'm at. I'm going to enter the transfer portal. And I always tell those guys is get your degree first. You know, that's the most important thing, is getting your degree first, because you need something to fall back on. I mean, everyone has a plan to go to the NFL, but, I mean, obviously that's not always realistic. So I always tell guys, especially coming from the FCS level, trying to go up, or, I mean, if you're going to just stay on the level you're at, you might as well just stay where you are and just fight it out, you know. But so of course, every situation is different. So I tell those guys all the time, just make sure you get your degree first, and then you go from there, because you need something to fall back on. You need an education, you need a degree, you need to solidify a place that you were when you go into the job world, because that's important to have a place that you solidified yourself at. Because if you don't, when people ask, where did you graduate from? You won't have a place to say that you graduated from. You'll just have schools that you say you attended. So that's important. Also, finding a place where you'll get a chance to actually play and compete for a spot. And that's another big thing. A lot of people want to go just to a bigger school just because it's a bigger school, but that wasn't the case for me. I had plenty of opportunities to go to a super big school or away, better facilities than I've had, but that's not always the case either. You want to go somewhere where you'll be able to display your talents. If you go to a school where it's 6 running backs and you coming in to be the 7th, I mean, it's just not realistic, especially if you don't have 4 years to play. So then you got me, I had 2 years to play. So I had 1 year to solidify myself and find myself in the offense, and the second year to really prosper and show everyone around the country who I am as a 4-down back, 3-down back. So that's another thing. Just finding a place where you'll be able to fit in right away, and knowing you'll at least get a chance to compete right away. And a lot of people don't put that into consideration. They just go to a place where they think the grass is always greener, and that's not always the case. And it doesn't always turn out how they want it to. And I've seen that a lot, where a player will go to a place, big school name, they promised them some things, they promised them some gear, but they just sit on the sideline or just get in for a few plays, and then they just go enter the transfer portal again. So that's the big thing, finding a home. You know, you don't want to just go somewhere just because. And now the transfer portal is way different from when I entered, because I've entered during COVID, where it wasn't as many players and you had to sit out. You still may have to sit out a year. You had to get waivers to play. My situation was different. I was a graduate transfer, so I graduated and I was able to play right away. And Hawaii was perfect for me because, I mean, we had 2 great backs that was here, Dedrick Hunter, Calvin Turner, but I knew I would get a chance to compete and fall in the offense. So Calvin was mainly playing receiver now. I knew that he would be rotating in at the back sometimes, and me and Dede, we just split carries, and we was one of the top 25 duos in the country when we played. So that just showed that I was able to solidify myself through camp, prove myself through camp, and find a spot in the offense. And then as the season went on, we just prospered. So that was big for me, just finding a spot where I would be able to fit in. And a lot of people, if you haven't even had game film, it's hard to even get to a spot as well. If you just enter the transfer portal with practice film, I mean, it's gonna be tough. You'll probably be sitting back at home wishing you stayed where you were, because a lot of schools won't give you a shot just off of practice film, especially coming from the FCS. You really have to dominate the FCS level for bigger schools to look at you. And that's another big thing too. Like a lot of people don't respect the FCS level in order to get to the FBS level. But I mean, if you had practice film at Alabama or a big school like that, it's a bit different because now you're going against 5 stars every day. And that's kind of proving like, okay, if you're making plays against those type of guys in practice, then you can definitely make plays at another FBS school in the game. So that's a bit different. And that's the type of competition you're going against when you enter the portal, is that you're not just going against FCS players, you're going against JUCO players, you're going against high school players, and you're going against FBS players. So that's another. So the transfer portal is a bit crazy right now with all the athletes just entering with no plan. So, I mean, the biggest thing is to have a plan. Talk to different coaches around the country to see if anyone would be interested in you, to see if they have some type of advice for you, like maybe people will think you can play at the next level. Get some insight on what coaches evaluate you as and see you as before you just enter and then you go be happy, not be happy somewhere else, and then you back in the same position again.
Man, it's so good, bro. Thank you for sharing all that.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, that's I think shows a lot of your, your experience, your maturity, something that this offense definitely, and team overall, I think, relied on with you and the offensive line in particular. I'm just kind of curious because you walked us through a lot of your journey right there. But I'm kind of curious, in you talked a little bit about on the field, but just like your time at the University of Hawaii was probably about as crazy a 2-year stretch as we've had in a long time, from the COVID restrictions to the stadium being condemned. And then there's no stadium to play in. Then you're playing in empty stadiums on campus. You qualify for a bowl game after thinking the season maybe was done. The bowl game gets canceled. All of the off the field stuff. There's a coaching change. You got to get used to a new staff for your second year in the program, learn another system again, earn your spot again, as you mentioned it, and then play out this season. I can't imagine that's exactly how you saw it playing out when you decided to transfer to Hawaii. But it sounds like you kind of took things in stride and really made the most of it. But just can you tell us a little bit of just how tumultuous this thing was at times, or how crazy it was, the good and the bad, and not necessarily dwelling on all the negatives or anything like that, but just, I mean, I can't think of a crazier 20 months or so since some of you guys came into the program.
I mean, for me, I was a walk-on to begin with, so walking on and having an upstride, that battle was something that I started with. So again, I was last on the depth chart where I was. I tried out for the football team, and I knew it was always going to be an uphill battle. And I've had a different head coach every single year of my college career. So I've learned every system there is. So when I came here, and we actually had some good times. I mean, with our first head coach, Coach Graham, there's a lot of negative out there, but I mean, there was also some positive as well. Yeah. But again, I'm a players guy. Like I'm all for the players, and we have to play at the end of the day. So none of that really fazed me. I mean, coming here again, it was like I was a walk-on all over again because I had to prove myself again. So it wasn't like I just came here and they just gave me a spot. I mean, I was coming from the FCS level at HBCU. I mean, people were always, you came from HBCU, like, you sure you can play? Like, so it's always an uphill battle. It was like I walked on again. So it was like I tried out again. And through camp, I had to prove myself again. And in the games, I had to prove myself again. But the first couple games, I hardly played, so it was the same way. I hardly got in. I had to prove myself in the game and solidify myself throughout the year. And then I made a lot of accomplishments doing that. And towards the end of the year, when we got to a bowl game, it was COVID. It was a lot of stuff going on. Not a lot of fans could come. So it was, but at the end of the day, it was still a great experience for me because I got to experience something I never experienced before in Hawaii. And that was a true fan base that was coming to every game and supporting no matter what, even through the wins and through the losses. I had a brotherhood, experiencing different guys from all around the country. That was just amazing to me. And then this year, with a new head coach coming in, you got to prove to another coaching staff what you already done again. So it's like you walk on all over again. You got to prove yourself all over again. You got to prove that you're the best all over again. And that's never a problem for me because that's just how it's going to be every year at the next level. You have to prove yourself every year. And that's how I looked at it, because in the NFL, what you did the year before never matters. unless you sign a super big contract, and then that's how. But other than that, but just being realistically, you have to prove yourself every single year in the NFL. So I never saw a problem with it. I never had a problem with it. I mean, proving myself, that's always what I always have to do anyway. So that wasn't a big deal for me. And I just proved myself again, and I proved myself again on the field. And as the year shows, I just proved myself every single game. So I mean, it's been a fun experience for me. I mean, it built a lot of character for sure. You know, I never complained one time. I mean, I'm not a complainer. I mean, I'm just a problem solver. So I never complain. I just solve every problem that I've had, and I try to preach that to the guys. You know, a lot of the walk-ons, I root for the walk-ons. I really want to see walk-ons be successful, and I try to just tell them, man, just put your head down and work, and everything else will come.
Hey, D, let me jump in real quick. Just as a former walk-on, true walk-on at University of Hawaii, I know exactly what you're talking about. It relates to me on a super deep level. Even if what you think is going to happen in this spring, with the draft or, free agency, even if it doesn't shake out the way that you want to, keep that same work ethic and that ethos, because you're literally a coach's locker room dream, bro. Someone who's not afraid to do multiple positions, probably not afraid of special teams, and you fit like you're 5'8", 205, like you fit the mold. So just keep that same attitude, bro. You're going to be successful. Like, just for someone who has been there in the past, wanted to just encourage you to just keep at it, bro, and see what all opportunities are out there, whether that be Canada, arena. I played in France for a year. There's so much opportunity having played at University of Hawaii, bro. I just, as an alumni, a former teammate, I wanted to spread that to you.
Appreciate that. No, that's definitely, that's great advice.
Yeah,
because
bro.
I'm willing to take on any opportunity, and especially NFL. That's my biggest thing. That's always been my dream. I know I'm gonna make it to the NFL. I know I'm gonna make a 53-man roster, but in order to do that, I know I'm gonna have to play special teams. I know I'm gonna have to play more than just running back, and that's what I've done here. And I've caught the ball well. I've played receiver. I've had plenty of 100-yard receiving games, plenty of 100-yard games. But it comes down to just playing special teams, and I know I can fit into a 53-man roster by playing special teams. So.
Yeah, I echo that, man, and I think you've proven a lot of that, as you point out. Versatile guy, 3 downs, you did it all at times and helped carry this offense. What are your kind of thoughts just on the future of this program and sort of where you leave this group and this coaching staff as they kind of head into the future? Things have calmed down a little bit. Now they can kind of turn the page on what was, in a lot of ways, a transitional year, but kind of what's your thoughts on what holds for the future in this program?
I think this program will be playing in a bowl game this next season, honestly, because I mean, it's just, when you look at the games that we played and how we lost some of our games, I mean, these were close one possession games. These weren't we were getting blown out every single game or we wasn't in the game. We just had a young team, and now it's time for the young team to grow up. They've got some experience now. They've been there. They've been in the game. A lot of our guys have proven themselves. I mean, you look for it, especially in my position group, the running back group. We got a lot of great running backs in that group that'll be able to emerge and become great here at Hawaii. Our line, just bringing in different guys. The transfer portal has changed the game again, as we talked about. So you can get some experienced guys here for the season to come play right away and make a big impact. So that'll play a big role in the success in the future. I mean, the coaching is just immaculate. I mean, the coaching, just how they get down to the T of everything. I mean, they have coaching like I've never seen coaching before. Just from a coverage standpoint, Coach Chang he's just amazing at what he does. Being a receivers coach, being a quarterback. I mean, he could just dissect the whole field and just give us a defense. Coach Juro on that side. I mean, he put those guys in position to play and to make plays. They just got to make the plays. And as they get older, they'll make those plays. It's not we were giving up some points, but the defense was in position to make those plays. So it's not like we weren't in position to make the plays. We just got to go make the plays. And that's just what come with being a defensive coordinator. I mean, it looks bad when they don't make the plays and it look good when they do. So That's how I look at it. The special teams, of course, with Coach Chef was phenomenal. You know, we played our butts off in special teams. So just overall, I think UH is going to be one of those contenders next year, especially for the Mountain West Championship. And I mean, it probably would be a sleeper towards the beginning. I mean, they'll probably sleep on them, but I mean, that's good though. That'll be good for them, you know, just to emerge like how they will this coming off season. I mean, this off season is going to be probably one of their toughest off seasons that they've had. The young guys going to have to grow up quick, and then you'll see as the years come on just how they'll be a contender every year, and just you'll see a lot of plays being made that weren't made this year.
No, I think a lot of people will be excited about that optimism. Last one for me, Dedrick. You mentioned the running back group, some of the young guys maybe getting a chance. I was kind of curious that you and Tylan Hines had quite the duo going. It was a fun dynamic to watch play out on the field, with guys like Najee Bryant in that mix as well. It was a very productive group, no matter who was out there. And from the outside, at least, it seemed like a pretty tight knit group. I thought it was one of the cooler moments of senior night, you know, them kind of carrying you off the field. How special was that group? What was the dynamic like for your guys and you as kind of the leader of that squad?
Right. I mean, that group is amazing. You know, me playing as many college football games as I have and knowing so much knowledge in college is like me just giving them all the answers to the test, you know, not only with my success, but with my failures as well. So they got to see me succeed and they got to see me fail. And with anything, I always put everything on me. So none of those guys, I never try to put anything on those guys, get them too much of a responsibility. I usually just try to keep everything to myself, you know, never complain. Always just try to bring those guys up. And those guys are so talented, as you've seen. Tylan, very talented back, you know, can catch the ball as well, fast, explosive. Najee, explosive, bigger back between the tackles, run guys over, finish runs, break away. So it's that group, especially we got a lot of younger guys that's coming as well. Boyd, you know, I mean, he hasn't played yet, but he will play. He'll be a good factor to see what he does. David, you know, Keith, a lot of those guys will get a chance to show who they are in the spring and be able to see if they'll be able to play at this college football level. But as of now, as you've seen the guys that have played, I mean, and our running back coach, Coach KK, is just one of the best coaches in the country, you know, just breaking down film, knowing what it takes to get to the next level, being a scout, being at that level. I mean, just having all these coaches with experience and just knowing what it takes to win, knowing what it takes to get to the next level. I mean, it kind of brings the best out of you every single day, just with our techniques, with our fundamentals. That's usually what we go over a lot, just being fundamentally sound. You know, a lot of times you get away from your fundamentals as you get better because you start to develop so much. You start to do extra. You start to fall away from your fundamentals. But as you come closer and as the coaches critique that, your fundamentals become better. You just become a better player overall. And that's what Coach Keiki does for us, is make all the players better. And as you see, Tylan started to emerge. He got better as the season came. And next year, I think he'll be probably one of the best backs in the country.
You mentioned Coach KK. You know, you're no longer a player at University of Hawaii, so you can kind of speak candidly. How'd my boy Samson do with you? He was my teammate.
That's my guy. Man, he brought that juice for us. I mean, he just so much support. You know, he just one of those coaches you like to be around. He's a player, one of those players, coaches, man. Fun guy to be around. Does a lot for the team. Does a lot for the staff. You know, does a lot for us. And I mean, he added value. He added a lot of value, and that's all you can ask for. Just to come in and add value, and he did that for us. And he brought a lot of.
That's awesome, man. That's super great to hear. Well, we don't want to keep you anymore from studying for your finals, bro. We want you to graduate and do it well. So, bro, have a Merry Christmas when you go back to Philly, see your family, and there's nothing but love here waiting for you whenever you choose to come back, bro.
Appreciate y'all, man. It's love always, man. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to y'all as well.
Absolutely. Thanks,
Dedrick. Appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
This is Hawaii Football Now from ESPN Honolulu.
All right, big mahalo to Dedrick Parson for joining us on the pod. He's a cool dude, man, and has put in a lot of time with this program, especially considering that I can't imagine he knew what he was getting himself into when he decided to transfer over from Howard. We talked about the, condemned stadium to empty stadiums to bowl games to canceled bowl games to turmoil to coaching changes to new staffs to new systems. And then just kept plugging away. What a dude. And I think he'll be remembered by UH fans for a long time to come.
Yeah, I don't think we can say that enough about guys that have been on the roster the last couple of years, especially since COVID and into the Todd Graham era. Such levels of perseverance were needed for these guys to just stay, positive, to put the jersey back on again. I'm thankful that we still have a program. It got bad during the last couple of years, and from a team perspective, the outstanding players that we look to, Dedrick Parsons was definitely one of those guys these last couple of years. So wish him nothing but the best in the future.
Yeah, really cool to talk to him, and I echo those sentiments as well. Looking forward, announcement this week by the University of Hawaii that they've scheduled a home and home with a Power 5 opponent, Kansas, the Jayhawks, who had their best season in a while, going 6-6 after starting 5-1 actually, and were ranked for a time. And things kind of, cooled off a bit throughout the second half of their season. August 28th.
Basketball school.
That's right. August 28th, 2028, in Honolulu, where we don't know, Aloha Stadium, new Aloha Stadium, Ching. Your guess is as good as mine at this point in 5 years' time or 6 years' time. And then the return game is 2032. No exact date given for 2032, 10 years from now, in Lawrence. The teams have only met one other time, August 31st, 1985, 33-27, Kansas with a win at the existing Aloha Stadium, the old Aloha Stadium. It was at Aloha Stadium in Halava. So that's kind of cool coming up, a little home and home. And, a lot of these games getting the Power 5 schools, I think, will be harder and harder with the way things are going. The gap, the way that conferences are looking at scheduling and whatnot, and building resumes and getting yourself into playoffs and everything and in between. But this is a pretty cool one, and a trip to Kansas, a trip to that part of the country for guys, maybe open up some recruiting avenues as well down the road. All in all, I think this is a positive for the program.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I will say, having been to that part of the country, there's not a whole lot to look at. So I hope their facilities are awesome. Let's just put it that way, which I'm sure they are with the amount of money that basketball team brings in there. But I did a little quick math, Jordan. Not only is September 18th, 2032 my birthday, will I be 41 years old at that time.
Nice.
But if Hawaii Football Now is still running, that will be episode 587. So
okay,
we've
got
only
that 520 to go.
That's right. There we go, baby.
All right, and we will have had Coach Timmy Chang on at least 5 times at that point. Maybe more than that, as he likes to come on our milestone episodes there. Transfer portal overall has been absolutely bananas. Chris Hummer, 24/7 Sports, had tweeted out. Some other folks have kind of pointed this out, but there were 406 FBF players in the transfer portal at midnight, and then things kind of really opened up this past Monday, December 5th. By, I don't even think it was the end of the day on Monday, there were 1,001 FBS players in the portal, per a source. That's 595 FBS transfer. It's gone up. These are just FBS guys, right? There will be other level. There will be FCS dudes that are stands. I mean, look, Jordan Murray, right, who came over from Southwest Missouri. There will be guys looking to jump up a level that'll be in the portal. Last year there were about 3,000 total who entered all of last cycle. So about 20% of that came in one day. It's insane out there. And there just simply aren't as many. The number of guys entering far exceeds the number of spots like available on FBF rosters.
Yeah.
So it's purgatory for a lot of these guys, and hopefully they can find homes for Hawaii so far. And I'm sure if we missed anybody, somebody will jump in the comments on Facebook or YouTube or whatever, and let us know. Please do. As far as we know, I think there's 5 right now. Again, it's Wednesday, a little before 2:00. Set to release this tomorrow on the 8th. Cam Cooper, the quarterback, Dior Scott, the receiver, Riley Wilson, linebacker, Nate Adams, the offensive lineman, and Kyler Halverson, the backup kicker, as well as the starting kickoff specialist. Maybe the biggest surprise there, but look, if you're a kicker and there's not a spot for you to climb a depth chart, it's kind of hard, right? It's kind of like quarterback in Cooper's position. Dior Scott saw his playing time diminish a little bit as other guys got healthier. Wilson and Adams were little used. And so I think, we wish those guys the best, and we hope that they find a quality landing spot for them, wherever that may be. But, I think that this is natural. I don't think this is something to sound the alarm bells about. And there'll probably be more names that pop up here as we go throughout. And we'll see how the opposite end works as well, what Hawaii can maybe bring in. But anything surprise you so far with the portal here, Hunter, either just kind of nationally or for these guys from Hawaii?
Yeah, I mean, the math kind of speaks loudly to me right there, what you just mentioned, that there's 1,000 guys in the portal right now, where that number vastly exceeds the landing opportunities of where these guys could play. There's always this psychological thing from players of, hey, I'm gonna jump in the portal, gonna spread my wings, go somewhere else. Well, I just don't know if that's always the best move. And only you and your family, those closest to you, are going to be the ones to know that for sure. We saw it with a number of guys last year. The portal was a good decision for them. Darius Muasau is killing it at UCLA. Nick Mardner had a great year at Cincinnati. Chevin Cordero almost, in my opinion, won Offensive Player of the Year at San Jose State. So it just depends. But I will also say, just knowing some of these guys in the situation, for Hawaii football, they've already had their exit meeting with Coach Timmy Chang at this point. So a few of these guys, I hope, know at least where they stand in terms of, okay, what does my career look like here at University of Hawaii? And I don't think we have anything to worry about, like what Deion Sanders said to Colorado in his opening address. I don't think Timmy's that kind of a guy. But I do think the language that head coaches use to their players, now that transfer portal is so commonplace and so much a part of the reality, I think they will let guys know, hey, we love that you're here. We love that you want to be a part of this. But if you feel like you want to go someplace else, you're in a competition right now. I would be feel free to pursue what you need to pursue, in that kind of a language. So I wonder if those things haven't been discussed.
Yeah, it'd be funny if it was like a complete Hawaii angle, right? And it'd be like, hey guys, if you might want to consider hitting the portal. Like, I'm bringing my own luggage, and it's the kind. Like, I'm bringing my Dakine duffel bag, or my Aloha collection, like travel bag, and people on the mainland would be like, "What is this guy talking about?" That would be quite funny. Nick Marner, by the way, in the portal again. So there are Hawaii fans, I'm sure, that are sending up the beacon, like, "Hey man, the grass is still green out here. Come on home." We'll see, and hopefully the best for Nick there. One other quick note, kind of unrelated, but former University of Hawaii offensive coordinator GJ Kinney hired as the new Texas State head coach, interestingly enough, after jumping up from Incarnate Word at the FCS level. Of course, was here for the first year of the Todd Graham era before he left to go take that job under Gus Malzahn on the East Coast. All right, quick overtime here, Hunter, before we got to get out. College football playoff field is set. Georgia, Ohio State in one semifinal, Michigan, TCU in the other. Pretty cool, the Horned Frogs, right? To think that they were former WAC foes of the University of Hawaii at a time, former conference brethren of the Rainbow Warriors, I guess Warriors at that time. Your thoughts on the field? Who you got?
Yeah, I love that TCU's in there. I love that they didn't change their ranking too. I felt like they had enough of a body of work to stay right there, but I really think the committee thought about a rematch of the game between Michigan and Ohio State, and it would not have been fair to Michigan to make them play Ohio State again just to make the national championship. So it kind of looks like Georgia's to lose at this point, but that Michigan team, now that McCarthy found a way to throw the ball a little bit, they're scary to me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's Georgia, right? Georgia's the team. They're so loaded. It's reminiscent of some of those great Alabama teams. But who knows? Ohio State, when healthy, has as much talent outside of Georgia as I think anybody does. It includes Michigan. So that's a tough draw. If they can get some of those guys back and contributing, Georgia's got no easy semifinal there. But I'm with you. I like the Bulldogs kind of heavily to win the whole thing and win the last couple of games, to go back to back and win the national championship once again. All right, that'll do it for us. Big thanks to Dedrick Parson for joining the pod. Big mahalo to him, and all the best as he continues on. Good luck with the finals as well. Kind of a big time of the semester here. Big thanks to our guy Jaron on the controls as well, double dutying. I think he's multitasking as he keeps us online here, and then he's got to go back and edit this thing. So thanks, Jaron. Big thanks to you, Hunter. And the rest of our listeners for tuning in. As always, drop us a line: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, really any platform that you can find us on. We appreciate it, and we appreciate our sponsors as well for sponsoring this episode: Spectrum Mobile, Hawaii USA, Federal Credit Union, and Battery Bill, of course. This has been Hawaii Football Now. We'll see you next week, everybody. Aloha.
You've been listening to Hawaii Football Now with Jordan Helle and Hunter Hughes, all from ESPN Honolulu.